Hi, welcome to the Creative Hustler Show. And my name is Rodrigo Flamenco, and today I have a special invited here. His name is Matt GASER, and he's an award-winning illustrator and visual development artist. He was a background prop designer for the animated series called the Rugrats. Probably you have seen it if you're my age. Also, he was in the video games industry for 6 years, and he was the concept designer of the titles of Forgotten Realms, Demonstone, and The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. And then he was in Lucasfilms on the CG animated TV series Star Wars, The Clone Wars. Now he's doing pretty much his own thing in his own studio, going full-time freelancer. And he is now here with us to discuss his path, his history, and all his knowledge. So, welcome, Matt.
Thank you. A pleasure to be here. Yeah, and my name's Matt GASER. I got GASER my whole life because it's GASER. Don't worry, it's not your fault. It's my family's fault for naming it that way. But anyway, yeah, the rest is totally correct.
Awesome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So, first of all, for the people who don't know you, can you give us little bit about your history? How did you get started into art, and what was your experience with it?
Yeah, I basically got my start drawing as a kid, like most artists do, and I grew up in a small town in Northern California, like 20,000 people, and I had high aspirations to go to art school, and so in high school, I applied to the Cal Arts for a summer school program because I thought I wanted to go into animation and be an animator. And so I got in. That summer was great. I learned a lot, but I quickly realized I did not want to become an animator. I wanted to become an illustrator and not draw many drawings that trying to animate something. I wanted to just create just standalone images. And so a friend of mine recommended Art Center College of Design, and I applied and I got in, and I decided to do that. And I spent 4 years at Art Center. I learned a lot. I majored in illustration and entertainment design, and then yeah, I just basically had this focus to get into concept art and be a concept artist. And that's when I got a gig right out of school, Art Center, doing Rugrats, doing background prop design for a few months, and then I got essentially let go because they didn't need me anymore. So then I looked for other work and found a video game studio up in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, that was doing Lord of the Rings Two Towers, like you mentioned. And I basically spent about 5 years in the video game industry. And then moved on to Lucasfilm Animation and worked there as a lighting concept artist, doing a lot of color keys and matte paintings. And then after that, I pretty much took off and wanted to do freelance, and I've been doing that ever since for about 8 years now. I've just been freelancing out of my home studio and working on a variety of projects in games, movies. I worked on Angry Birds movie recently, and I've also got into stage design for EDM concerts. I like to do this one called Daydream Festival, and I do the poster every year, and then I design the stage to look like the world from the poster, and then I do all the art for the stage, and that's just an incredible experience, and that's in Brussels, Belgium area, and anyway, yeah, just drawing, painting, and staying creative, and that's where I'm at right now. So
awesome. And what made you decide to go freelancer? Because I know many people in the industry, like their dreams are like go to Disney, go to Pixar, be in Lucasfilm, and all the things. And I found like there is like a very small number of people who want to do their own thing. So, what made you take that decision?
Well, I've been told that my style of work is very, I mean, it's not original because there's always ways you can relate it to other artists and other inspirations, but it's got a unique tone to my work, I've been told. So And I just love story. I love creating ideas and imaginative worlds on my own. And so I just love creating projects on my own. You know, I published an art book last year called Fantastical, the art of Matt GASER, and it basically encompasses you know, all these stories and visual ideas I've had over the years. And yeah, I mean, the concept of working at a major studio was one of my aspirations early on in my career. And then now, as I've matured a little bit, it's more about trying to find my own path. Obviously, I have many clients from all kinds of studios, and I work with them because I do all the time. I'm just saying that I've just felt it's just been very comfortable to work in my own space, at my own studio, and sometimes work for other people, and then work for myself on my own personal projects. And yeah, it's challenging. It's scary at times because, you know, sometimes you don't get paid as much. Sometimes you don't get paid at all. Other times you get paid a lot. It just varies because, you know, you're your own boss, and what you put in is what you get out of it. So there's a lot of discipline that needs to take place when you have a choice like I've made, because you're on your own. And when you wake up in the morning, it's your decision to sit down and either generate business or work for yourself. And so that part's been very liberating. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah, I highly recommend it if you have the guts for it. But you have to have a sort of business hat as well, and just keep pushing for work, because it's not going to come to you. You have to go to it, basically. So
yeah, that's something that we found as well in our journey. So that there was this kind of business element that there was to it when you want to become a professional. And I see like there are many artists out there who kind of want to go to the they say they want to go professional, but at the same time their attitudes is definitely towards like making art as a hobby and not like aligned to business interest. How would you describe your journey into realizing that there is this kind of business knowledge needed into this area?
yeah, it's a great question, because when I left the studio world of working at a major studio, I chose basically in the span of a week that I wanted to work freelance, and I talked to my wife about it. She was highly supportive, and she has a really good paying job, so that helped. I think if I was by myself, if I was single, if I wasn't married, I was on my own, it would have been a lot harder to make that decision, because I would have had to either have a little bit of savings set aside to float me until I get to where I wanted to go, or just be super confident and push really hard to try and make money right away. Because I'd say after the first 3 months of starting freelance, I did have moonlighting jobs back when I was working at a studio. I'd come home in the evening and work on oddball jobs for people and stuff, for like, you know, Blizzard or Magic cards, doing illustration work for trading card projects and things like that. But I needed more long-term projects that were like, you know, a month long or 3 months long. And I finally got this gig. I forget the name of the company, but they quickly went out of business basically after I signed the contract, and they put me down for 3 months of work, and I had only been working for them for like 2 weeks, and they closed their shop, but they honored the 3 months of work that they said they were going to give me. So I got a huge check for 2 months, for 2 weeks worth of work. And my wife patted me on the back, was like, this is going to work out great. And I told her, this is a total fluke. This never happens. But that gave me enough in the bank on my own to like basically say, I can do this. And so I had, you know, some firepower to look for other work in terms of time, because time is huge in the freelance world. You need to get on it and get other clients. Otherwise, you don't get paid. And as long as those invoices are stacking up and people owe you money, then you know you're good. If the invoices start going away and you have no invoices out and you're sort of working on things, but not, then you're not going to be getting paid. So I had a little stack of invoices finally, and I knew I was finally building a career as a freelance artist. So the only downside to it, I'd say, is that there are times where work gets slow, but the benefit is basically you get to work on your own stuff. I have a backlog of all these paintings I want to do or stories I want to help create, and so whenever someone is either like turned off the work for me, and there's a couple weeks or a week where nothing's happening, I'll just go right into my personal work mode, and I'd say that's the benefit of not getting paid as much sometimes as a freelance artist, is because you get to work on your own stuff, and that's just super awesome. Because when you're working for a major studio, there's always work. They're always pushing you as hard as they can to do work for them, and there's no time, obviously, during the day to work on your own stuff until you get home at night. And we know how that goes. Sometimes we're tired, or you just want to relax and watch a movie. And so anyway, it's been good, and I recommend it if you can handle it. So, but yeah, I did understand early on that I needed to business hat, and I needed to milk all my contacts. And I will say, working at a major studios early on in my career helped me get the contacts I needed to work for freelance, because if you start off like right out of school working, going into freelance, it's harder to make contacts that way. And I always recommend, if you're graduating right out of art school, to try and work at a major studio for a few years, just to generate some contacts in the industry. It's just a great way to build that contact base. So
Awesome. Also, there is this topic that I see happening as well in their community, where there are people who say like they don't have the skills, that they are not like the salesman or anything like that, that they are more just the artist, and that is not something that they can be. And there is so another group that is kind of like everything is a skill, you can learn to do everything. I think I find myself a little bit on the other side, uh, uh, saying that you can learn everything, because kind of I did kind of the same thing, but at the same time I can see people who are maybe so far in the art realm that I think it's obvious that, okay, for this guy to have just even the concept, the basic concepts of selling and networking and business, it will take him like a long time, and that is not practical. Uh, would you recommend to them like to partner up with somebody who has more business talents, or any other tactic?
yeah, I mean, I over the years I considered partnering with other colleagues that are also freelance, and maybe starting a mini collective studio where freelance gigs would come in. Sometimes we would be working on our own stuff for clients, or we would share the workload. And I think actually that's a great model if you're starting out. If you have a group of, like, let's say 3 to 5 artists that are all graduating the same year, and they all have unique talents. Maybe one's really a lot better at character design. Maybe one's a lot better at environments. Maybe one is lacking a little bit in both, and finds the business end of it more interesting. I'd say that's an incredible model to get started as a freelance guy or woman. I mean, it's that way you're relying on each other, and it's not just you alone on a boat in the middle of the ocean trying to generate business. So for me, it was very accidental. I kind of fell into freelance. I mean, I obviously chose to make the leap, but I already had work coming in a little bit, and people already sort of knew who I was, and so I was finding myself, people slowly coming to me as news sort of spread out within my contacts that I was now freelance, and they could approach me for longer term projects on that level. Then I got more business that way, because people would return, and obviously, you know, they were happy with my work, so they'd call me back. But like I say, I think it'd just be great to partner with people, and I'm a people person. I love to talk to people. I love talking to you right now, and it's very isolating being by yourself every day in a room, working by yourself. So I think it'd be more fun to be in a space where there was like, you know, 5 other desks and everyone's all chit-chatting and going out to lunch together and working. And I mean, that environment is just so much better for our creative minds. So that part I do miss, and that's something I would recommend doing. So.
Great. What made you decide to? Because I'm guessing that at this point you have like at least some people that you could partner up and do that. So what made you decide to keep like doing your own thing by your own?
Well, like I mean, I guess, you know, I started out working by myself as a freelance artist, and then some colleagues of mine were sort of toying with the idea of maybe working together, and it never came to fruition. It never happened. I think it was just easier to just keep doing what we were doing in our own spaces, and you know, because I think the challenging part is trying to divvy up the profit, and you know, is that sustainable for 3 guys or 4 guys? You know, I guess if you somehow sold yourself as a big art studio that's sort of independent, then maybe a film or a video game would come to you as a collective, and you give them a giant bid of like, you know, okay, for A, B, and C, we'll charge, you know, 30 grand, and then, you know, each artist is getting 10,000 out of the deal or something, and you're all working together. I mean, I don't know if studios really do that very often with a group of guys. Usually in my experience, they just hire a bunch of individual artists throughout the world, and we all work on a project. And I think that's actually a trend that's happening a lot right now. I was talking to, I forget the director, but he directed Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs to, forget his name, skipping me right now. But anyway, we chatted and had a coffee meet and greet in San Francisco a couple years back, because he was considering me for a project he was working on, and his idea for the movie was to hire everyone individually throughout the world as freelance independent artists, and we were all and he was gonna be able to hand pick everyone, all his favorite artists throughout the whole world, and they would all work for him and just bring in the art to where he was. And I thought that was just such a great model, because I didn't have to move to LA, or artists didn't have to, you know, if they lived in Australia, didn't have to move to the US, and it would just made it a lot less, a lot easier. It wasn't as complicated. I never ended up working on that project with him, but the coffee meet and greet that we had was interesting, because and I see that more now too, that a lot of studios are hiring artists independently in their own studios, and so that's great. That's good for all of us. So.
Nice. Have you felt like technology has been playing a bigger role in the industry right now? For example, now that you mentioned that, I don't think that would have been possible, let's say, 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Like, how do you think this is going to change things in the future?
Oh my gosh. Well, I just say the biggest advantage students out of art school have right now is the mobile gaming space, because there's just so much work that's available out there for that platform. I feel more so than in movie studios or console-based video game companies, because there's so many different little independent studios everywhere. Like in San Francisco, the Bay Area, Seattle, Portland. You know, I don't know too much about the East Coast, because I live on the West Coast here in California, but I just know that there's just so many, like Pocket Gems, Zynga, all these big box mobile gaming studios, and they hire people like crazy, and they hire artists right out of school all the time. And I just think it's a great start to get experience, and like I said, you know, building that contact base that will help project you forward later in your career. So that's a huge advantage, and that's because of technology. I mean, when I graduated back in 2001, there wasn't the iPhone. We didn't have these fancy devices. You know, we did have cell phones, but you know, they were very crude and simple. And now the iPad, all these things. It's also a great new way for us to express ourselves as artists. I mean, you know, you team up with a coder or a programmer, and you know, maybe you get a UI graphic designer artist friend of yours, and you're the concept artist, and maybe you have a game designer friend, and it's four of you can just be sitting in a garage and create a game, and then you sell it and you make money, and who knows, it might be a hit. I just think that model was never there before in that way when I first started. And so that's what's so great about going to art school too, is you can meet colleagues and friends that might have different disciplines than you, and you can team up and create you know, a cool project and hopefully benefit from that. So, and the VR space too, that's a new technology that's absolutely exploding right now. And I think no one knows where it's headed. I think a lot of people are struggling trying to figure out how they're going to make money with these type of projects, but it's clearly obvious that in the next 2 to 5 years, people are going to be making a lot of money on these devices, and that platform is even crazy. I mean, more exciting, because now we're inventing worlds that we can physically be in mentally. You know, I mean, you put on these headsets and you can look around and you can see this world that you helped create. I mean, that's an absolute dream. I've worked on one VR project for a studio, and my first time putting on VR was seeing an environment that I helped create visually with concept art, and my mind was completely blown. I just could not believe that I gave them, you know, these paintings. They modeled the environment, and then here I am looking around. I was just awestruck. So there's a lot of power and creativity with VR, and I think we all should be very excited about that. So.
Do you think it's going to, like, I remember there was this tale from one of the Disney animators where pretty much they decided to do the change from 2D animation to 3D animation, and it was like a big hit to many artists because they were like really they held on onto 2D animation like really tight, and they didn't want to let go. So going to the 3D was a big hit for them. And now I think it's going to happen the same thing with VR. Like people are trying to grab onto the 3D and the standard that we have now. And I even know a couple of guys who are still holding on to 2D, and it's like, you think 3D is the problem? Like, wait for VR. What do you think about that? Like this flexibility that we have to have as an artist in order to keep adapting to the world.
I think it's great. I'll give you a story though. Like when I was starting out in the video game industry, I was brought on as a concept artist, but everyone around me was sort of a generalist. They could do texture art, they could UV map 3D models, they could model in 3D and use you know, the 3D software that was required. And all I could do is paint and illustrate in Photoshop and do drawings, and I could do them really well, and that's why they hired me. But the development cycle of a video game, I don't know if it's changed much now, but concept artists are used earlier on, you know, inventing the world, what it looks like and everything. And then as the game starts getting made, sometimes either concept artists are brought onto another project that might be in development, and if that's not the case, they need to transition into, you know, another position, like, you know, help with environment modeling and textures and things like that. And so everyone was pushing me to work in 3D because they were afraid that I was going to get laid off. And you know, eventually what ended up happening was there was a big layoff because we had finished a project, and they kept me on, thankfully. And I kept saying, I don't want to do 3D. I want to be just a concept artist. And it was a risk that I took to just push that, but they never let go of me, and I just kept doing concept art. And And I might have suffered a little bit not learning 3D back then, but I just wanted to focus on my craft and what I'm passionate about. And nowadays, there's a lot of concept artists are just absolutely insane with 3D, and they can generate these incredible worlds using 3D software and in Photoshop. But I will say that there is this medium in VR that I saw at a comic convention that I was at Silicon Valley Comic-Con back in March, and I met this gal who works for Google, and she is their resident VR illustrator. And she paints and creates worlds in VR. And so she showed me her demo, and I was totally blown away. And I'm very excited about getting my hands on this hardware. But essentially, there's these points in a room that track your hand movements, and you put the VR on, and you can totally illustrate and paint a branch in 3D, just like you're carving your paint strokes and creating these objects, and you can duplicate them. You can make a whole forest, and then you can paint the grass, and you can pull it up and push it down, and it was incredible. And you can create sort of a light source that will bounce the key light onto the objects that you're illustrating, and it's crazy. It's amazing, and it's totally the future. I can see 10 to 15 years from now, concept artists almost exclusively painting our art in VR, and it was incredibly easy. And she was like me. She was anti 3D artist modeler person, but yet here she was with this software painting and illustrating in 3D. So I think that's been a big hurdle for some people, including myself, is that the layers and layers and time of layers of interface that you need to learn for a program like 3D Studio Max, and the amount of time it takes to get proficient will sometimes suppress your ability to just be creative doing concept art in Photoshop, and that's always been my struggle. But I think now, where we are now and where we're headed is just technology that makes it so much easier to just get your hands on it, and there isn't this gigantic learning curve. And so, yeah, I think we're headed in a very exciting place that's scary, but also very liberating for creative people like us. So, yeah.
I actually had experience doing the VR thing in Sweden. We went to a makerspace, and the guy who I was hanging out, like, he set me up with the VR, and yeah, like what you say is really true, because I have friends who have gone through the. I have really old friends who I knew before they knew 3D, and pretty much took them like really many years to get to the point where they were just decent, let alone like really good. But the VR felt like completely different, because like it's pretty much you just paint. Like you don't have to learn all this modeling and things like that. Like you just do, and that felt like really different when I did it over there. Like there was this moment where I was like completely paralyzed, like, because I had so many ideas of what to do and what I could make, because I even had like these brushes that were making fire effects or water effects and things like that, and it was and light, and I was like, what do I do? Like, there are so many possibilities over here.
But that's incredible, right? I can just see all of us painting and illustrating these landscapes, and then with the power of programming, they can get these effects or these environments to move. You paint a tree, and you slap on some interesting texture that looks like leaves, but then you push a button, and you key that whole area, and all of a sudden it starts to move, because of wind, or you paint a waterfall, and then it starts to move like water. I mean, I just think down the road it's going to be kind of mind-boggling, and I think we're going to just want to be in that space creating all the time, but I mean, like Photoshop, I've been using it for 15 years now, and it's kind of like driving a car. Everything comes naturally. I know the interface very well, and I can get on there and I just can create. And like you said, with 3D, like 3D Studio Max, a lot of my friends are absolutely amazing at it because that's their focus. But like, you'll be modeling something that's not working right, and it's because like 10 layers down in the UI, you didn't check that one box to, you know, and I feel like Photoshop isn't like that. And I also feel like the VR is not like that either. So it's great for us creative minds. You know, we're simple people when it comes to technical stuff. At least I am. A little old school in the mindset in that regard, but it's all about creating and just making it easy. So
for people who are starting out, what do you think there will be like something that not many people are putting attention to it, but they should?
You mean in terms of skills?
Skills and industries.
Oh, well, I feel like there's a lot of portfolios out there. I see, well, so ArtStation, for those of you that are not aware, there's a website out there called ArtStation, and it's a huge hub for concept artists to get on there and show their work. And it's kind of like an ego trip or boost, or not ego boost. It decreases my ego because I don't have one in the first place. But if I think that I'm doing really good with my own work, I get on there, and the artists these days blow me away. Their work is absolutely amazing. But on the other hand, I also see a lot of artists that that just need a good foundation and a good set of traditional skills that we get early on, usually in our career. And I feel like some artists try and just skip the fundamentals and just go straight to trying to be a concept artist. And to get that point, you need to get really good at figure drawing. You need to be really good at proportion, composition in a painting. You know, the way objects are juxtaposed in a setting, and making sure that feels right. I feel like there's a lot of artists that are really good technically in terms of painting skills, but again, their composition or their choice of subject matter is weird or off. The proportion of their characters, their heads are not correct with the rest of the body, and maybe they're trying to do it realistically, and so it doesn't feel right. And all these things can be learned in workshops or going to art school, because you sit down, you spend years and years just painting or drawing the human figure. So when you're asked in a room somewhere at a studio, hey, you know, create a series of characters for me, you can fall back on that knowledge, you know, and you're confident because you have those skills. I think a lot of times too, environment concept artists don't go out in the field and paint as much. I sure did early on. Every weekend, I would go out and just do these little color keys in acrylic and gouache, and just try and soak in light and color. I remember I used to do these paintings. They're real small. They're like about 2 inches by 1 inch, and I would record like as the sun was setting, you know, maybe on a hill somewhere. And I would do like 3 or 4 of them over the course of like 2 hours, and the same exact shot. And you could see when you're done how the light and the color was changing as the sun was setting. And so all this information you're soaking in, and then when you're asked to like do an incredible, you know, fantasy concept piece, or maybe the sun is setting by a castle, you can reference that knowledge that you had back in the field and apply that to your art. So yeah, I feel like there's an incredible array of talent out there, but the people that are struggling, this is why I think they're struggling, is that they just don't have enough fundamental skills, and maybe they're just trying to, you know, put the carriage before the horse, or the horse before the carriage, however you say it, but trying to skip the hard stuff and just go straight to the juicy, fun stuff. And you know, that's not normally how it works. You have to work really hard and work on your traditional skills first. So I think, you know, it's really easy to create an alien or draw a monster. You know, I mean, it's a lot easier, in my opinion, than to illustrate a beautiful woman sitting on a rock and make that look right. You know, and so it's good to have that skill set, and so you can do both.
Nice. Also, on the same topic that you just mentioned, uh, I think it really goes into patience. I think that many people, when they hear patience, they may be thinking on doing something 1 year when it's really maybe 5 to 10 years. I had that in the past as well. When I was a starter, like I was thinking, like, yeah, I will work hard and make this goal in 3 months. Obviously,
Yeah.
that then it took like maybe 2 years to make that small goal that I had back then. But at the end, I think it was worth it. Like just not to give up and just keep putting the work. What do you think about the whole concept of patience and how, like, if on this concept that if you think that you are going to achieve something, let's say in 6 months, then maybe aim for 3 years or something like that?
Yeah, personal growth as an artist, it can vary. I mean, I have colleagues that just decided in college they wanted to be an artist. They really didn't have much experience growing up drawing and painting, and then suddenly, like, their third year in college, they're like, yeah, I'm going to be a concept artist. And then, like, you know, 5 years later, they're working for Marvel Entertainment doing, you know, amazing paintings for Avengers. I actually have a friend that followed a similar trajectory, and it blows my mind. I'm such a fan of his work, and I remember him telling me that he decided sort of late to become an artist. And so some people are just gifted like that. You know, for me, it's been a long, hard road of self-discovery, and you know, I'm almost 40 now, and I still struggle. I mean, you know, you think you're doing a character design right, or an environment correctly, and then, you know, a client will checkmate you and basically put you in your seat and go, you're doing it wrong, and then you look back at it and you're like, wow, I kind of am. And you have to make those changes. And so no artist gets to a certain point where it's smooth sailing, and every day is just a good day. I mean, we all have our bad days, and it doesn't matter who you are as an artist, and you know, you just keep your head up and try again. I think in terms of patience, I think that goes hand in hand with mileage. Like, you know, if you're not seeing a lot of progress in your work, I think it just comes down to how much time you're putting into it. I mean, I've always drawn almost every single day. If I'm not painting in the computer, I'm sketching or I'm drawing. And I've got a million things in my head constantly screaming that want to be put out there on paper. And if I don't do that, I'll go insane. In fact, when I go on vacations with my family, I purposely don't bring a sketchbook, because I'll find myself doing that instead of enjoying the vacation, drawing, but then I get depressed because I'm not working. You know, it's this odd thing where you might be on a beach swimming with your kid and you're, you know, hanging out with your wife, but you know, at night you're just screaming to, like, have a piece of paper and sketch and draw. So I think if you don't have that drive, then you need to get that drive, because it pushes you to get better. I think it's just important to have a little bit of competitiveness in your blood. I've always been, and I think this was a product of graduating from Art Center College of Design, is that there were so many amazingly talented students around me. I had to work as hard as I could to just keep up to that level. And so I grew really fast. And I think if you have that kind of environment around you, whether you're in art school or if you're starting out working at a video game company or whatever, that will help you dramatically to get better quicker. But I think if you're just working at Starbucks and you want to become a concept artist, you need a lot of patience, like you said, and you need to find the right portals to get inspired. So, and there's all kinds of them out there. The Gnomon Workshop DVDs are a good start. Seeing a lot of demos online. There's just thousands of them out there. All of us working in the industry are pushing our techniques and things like that, and so you can learn a lot just from other professionals. And again, back to technology, that wasn't around back in 2001 when I was going to school. So a lot of people have that kind of benefit now.
Awesome. Also, on the topic that you just touched, the age, I remember when I was like 18 years old, I thought that at my 30s or 40s, I would feel like really tired because that was kind of the environment I grew in. Like all adults telling me that no, once you're 30, like everything is going down. And obviously, in some ways it is, but on others, like I still feel incredibly young. And I see you, and you said you have 40, but I see you and you look incredibly young, and you look like you have energy as well.
Yeah.
Do you think at your 20s that you will feel this good at this age?
I mean, I think it just comes down to my spirit. I'm always excited about life, and anytime I see something that inspires me, I'm really extroverted about it, and I feel like that's also in my art. I get really excited about a painting or an idea, and I just put everything into it, and I look forward to being 60. I look forward to being 75 and still doing what I'm doing. I hope at that point monetarily I don't have to worry as much about bills, and so I can almost exclusively retire and just work on my own stuff, just make my own books, make my own stories, publish them, go to comic conventions. That's another thing I wish I had gotten started earlier on in my career, is promoting my work by artist alleys at comic conventions. I started doing that about 4 years ago, and I wish I had done that in my early 20s. I could have, because it's just such a great way to connect with fans. The limited ones I actually have. I think there's 2 out there, but it's also a great way to make contacts. Recruiters from DreamWorks or wherever will sometimes come by your table and check out your work, and it's just a great place to get a good pulse on where you are as an artist and how people are responding to your work. So and it's fun. You get to just meet like so many different types of people out there at these comic conventions, and they're in their cosplay outfits, and it's just a good fun time. So yeah, I never thought that I would end up doing that, and I did kind of late in the game. And I again, when I'm 75, I still want to be doing that, and promoting all kinds of projects that I'm creating. So.
Awesome. And one last question. Let's say you wake up tomorrow and it's like a whole different world. You only have $500 in your pocket, and pretty much nobody knows about you, and you are starting from zero, but you still have all your knowledge that you have right now. What would you do to start in the first 6 months with that?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. I've never thought about that. Well, I would know that I need to make money because I only have $500. So I'd probably invest that 500 into food to help sustain me, and art supplies. And I know that I couldn't buy a Cintiq or get Photoshop with that, so I'd have to work traditionally, break out the paints again, and just start generating a portfolio. This is this question you raise. I imagine is if I didn't even have a portfolio, right? I'm starting from scratch at $500.
Yeah.
So it's time to get started, man. It's time to get cracking. So I definitely get some paints and just draw like crazy. And every piece I would post on my Instagram. Every image I finished, I put on Facebook. And I would just try and get my LinkedIn account started, start pushing contacts that way, and just show everyone my work. And every day I would post what I'm doing, and I'd probably try and document my progress and see if that helps get business. I'd also just probably really focus on getting a job at a major studio. When I mean major, I just mean any studio that is doing something creative and could hire me to get paid. And then in the evenings, I would probably focus on my portfolio some more. So I'd be working on work for the company that's hired me, and then in the evenings, I would definitely work till midnight, get a cup of coffee going around 7:30 p.m. after dinner, and just work till midnight until I achieve my goals. So, I mean, when I was younger and I wasn't married, I would do this, and I still do this to a degree at my age now. Not as much, but I had a bunch of roommates, and we were from all different disciplines, and I would just work till midnight. You know, I would work at a video game studio till about 6. I would go swimming, swim laps at a gym, and then I would come home and I would you know, get dinner rolling, and then I would paint and illustrate until I went to bed. You know, and I think years and years and years of doing that, you start building this huge portfolio that you can sort of do something with. And now, which is really funny, is my wife, and I talk about this sometimes in other interviews, but my wife is really into reality TV, and I am not. But we share a lot of interests together as a couple. But in the evenings, after my daughter goes to bed, my wife generally likes to dominate the TV, so it's a perfect excuse for me to go upstairs and work on my projects. So so even at the age of 40, I'm still basically doing that, and not every night. You know, sometimes we have a movie night or whatever. But anyway, it's still fun. So still working. Anyway, yeah, that's how I would approach it with $500 just getting started. So.
Awesome. Anything else that you would like to touch or say that you think that we haven't covered in this interview?
I guess just for those of you guys getting started out there, make sure to just you know, work every day on your craft and try and find the right portals on the internet to get inspired and to get knowledge that you need. And if money's an issue, don't go to art school and get in debt. There's plenty of workshops that are much cheaper out there that can achieve your goals. And yeah, I mean, best of luck. And for any of you out there that need any advice or want me to look at your work, you can check out my website at mattgaser.com, and I'm happy to help you. So there you go.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for giving us your time and your knowledge to this interview, Matt. It's really appreciated.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. So this has been the interview with Matt GASER. Hope you have liked it, and please share it with all your friends so we can start spreading the knowledge.